Hi, friends. I'm Artha Jonassaint, the Southern Region Vice President, and I am so thrilled that we can spend the next few moments together in our workshop. So at this point, you know that I'm in front of you today. You know that I am a national officer, and now you know that I am from Florida, but beyond that, we don't know each other too well. So let's dive into some questions to help us get to know each other a little bit better. In a moment, I'm going to say a statement, and if we agree with that statement, we'll rise, but if we disagree with that statement, we'll stay seated. So let's get straight to it. If we prefer water over soda or pop, or soda pop, whichever we call it in Minnesota, let's rise. I know that I love water, so I am up right now. Great, let's all take our seats. Next question is, I have a really big family. Family is whatever you want it to mean. Maybe you have a bunch of brothers and sisters, maybe you have a bunch of cousins, maybe you have a lot of friends that feel like family. But if you think you have a big family, let's stand. I certainly do. You should see our Thanksgiving pictures. Great, let's all take a seat. Next, what do we want to do next? If we prefer books over movies, let's stand. If we prefer books over movies, let's stand. I love a good movie, so I'm gonna keep my seat. Awesome, we can all take our seats. And our final question, I'd prefer to have one or two really close friends over a bunch of just okay friends. Let's stand if we agree with that. I certainly do. Therefore, you see my torso and nothing else right now. Great. We can all take our seats again. Well, those questions not only serve to break the ice and help us get to know each other a little better, but I think more importantly, they tap into our identity. Our identity are all of the things that make us who we are. We're different, we're unique individuals on this earth because of the different aspects of our identity. Some of the aspects of our identity we're born with. We're born with our race. We're born into certain kinds of families. And then some things we kind of acquire over the years. So some of us may have acquired a preference to book over movies or something like that. But all of those things put together make us who we are today. And we're going to dive into a specific part of our identity in our time together. And those things are our values. So in order to make this happen, we have to have two road stops on our adventure today. So in a moment, I will share my screen and we will see those two things. Beautiful. So hopefully, if this is working correctly, we can see two index cards. One says that our values guide our actions. And the second says that we all have different values, and that's a good thing. Our values guide our actions, and we all have different values, and that's a good thing. That's all we have to talk about today. So let's just get right to it and into this idea of values. Now, let's take a second. Let's even pause the video for about 30 seconds or so and think about what a value is to us. Alrighty, I hope we're all back now. A value, hopefully we came to this conclusion that a value is just something that's important to us. Maybe it's a belief, maybe they're a set of morals, maybe it's something that our families instilled in us all along the way, but essentially a value is something that is important to us. Now, some of us might value Starbucks or lip gloss or cell phones, but we're not talking about material things that we can value. Rather, we're talking about those things we can't quite touch, those qualities in us that we really wholeheartedly believe in. And one of those things for me is adventure. Y'all, I love adventure and I value it so much because I'm the kind of person who cannot sit still to save my life. I always have to be doing something, exploring a new location, trying a new food at a restaurant, trying a new Starbucks order, or meeting someone that I've never met before. And because I've loved adventure my entire life, I love field trips while I was in school. How many of us here also like field trips? Ugh, field trips were always my favorite. We didn't have to stay in the classroom and we could go explore something brand new in our city, or if we were lucky, outside of our little town of Okeechobee down there in South Florida. And my favorite field trip of all time had to have happened when I was in 8th grade. It was the springtime and we just finished all of the standardized testing that we had for the year. And they decided that it'd be a good idea, they being our administration, that'd be a good idea to take all of the 8th graders to go see a minor league baseball game a little outside of our hometown. And I don't know what was going on that day, but the vibes were immaculate from start to finish of our field trip. We get on the bus and the bus driver is playing the hottest hits of 2013. My friends and I occupy the back of the bus and we're singing Party in the USA, causing a ruckus because that's just what you do when you're 13 years old. From there, we get to the park eventually, and it is the most beautiful spring day. It's not too hot, but it's not too cool. There's all of the ballpark favorites, hot dogs, caramel corn. In fact, I had so much caramel corn stuck in my braces that my orthodontist could not stand me for about 2 months after that field trip. And then my friends and I, we really got to enjoy a beautiful game of baseball. And because I like field trips so much, and by the show of hands earlier, I'm guessing we all had some kind of positive experience with a field trip, we're going to take a field trip together today. So in a moment, I will share my screen and we will see a QR code. Using our cell phones, we will scan this QR code and it'll take us to a Google form. Once we see this Google form, our job is to answer those questions as honestly as possible. Once we finish our Google form, we're gonna wait, come back together, and think about what we just did. So again, I'm going to share my screen. We're gonna see a QR code. We will scan said QR code and we'll take the Google form. And as I alluded to earlier, this Google form is a field trip. So when we have stops on our field trip, we're gonna wanna remember where we went and how we got there. It's a little tricky, but I know that we've got it. Minnesota FFA is full of some of this country's brightest. So I will share my screen. Here is our QR code. Feel free to pause this video right now, right as we are. And when we're ready to move forward, we'll do just that. The adventure awaits. Perfect. So now that we've finished our field trip, and I apologize that I can't take you to all of these beautiful places in real life, but we're balling on a budget here at National FFA, so that little Google form is just gonna have to work. Now I'll share my screen again, and we will see a few questions that we can answer. Let's take about 5 minutes to think deeply about the 3 questions on the screen, and if time allows it, let's share some of these responses with the people that we're watching this workshop with to see how we made some of the decisions that came alongside our field trip and why they matter. So let's take about 5 minutes, let's pause this video, and let's answer these questions as honestly as possible. Great, well, welcome back. You have been missed. Well, I know that we had such incredible discussion about those questions and about how we got from point A to point B in that workshop, and making those tough decisions really came back to our values and the things that are important to us. Some of us value adventure. So when we were in the mountains, we decided to explore all by our lonesome and not go with the tour guide. Some of us really value our family. So if we made it to New York, we went back home because we really wanted those people that we love the most to be in our lives rather than tailoring to our talents. There was never a right or wrong answer. We just acted upon our values. And here's the thing, folks. Our values shape our identity. Our values are the things that are important to us, and our values drive our actions. They helped us through this virtual workshop, but our values often often in real life drive us to make certain decisions and drive us to act in certain ways. So it's really important for us to have a good grasp on what those values are, who we are, and how we can use our identity to help us through some of life's most challenging moments. So now that we've taken a great field trip, we've thought critically about what that field trip means, let's take it a step further and figure out what are some of those values that are most important to us as individuals. So in a moment, I will change my screen from these flashcards and we will see a list of values. These are not all of the values in the world. So if there's not one on here that resonates with you, feel free to incorporate it into our conversation. But when we see this list of values, we will pick 3 to 5 values. So 3, 4, or 5 values that mean the most to us. Once we have those 3 to 5 values, we will come back together and see what else we can do. But we're just going to pick 3 to 5 values as of right now. Let's take about 2 minutes or so to do this. And then when we come back, we'll take it a step further. So here is this list of values. And when we're ready, let's unpause this video. Well, first let's pause this video, pick our 3 to 5. And when we're ready to move on, let's take our next steps and unpause this video. Great. Hopefully we have 3 to 5 values written down near us. And now let's continue on thinking about those actions. Now that we know what's important to us, how can we live out these things in our everyday life? We'll take about 3 to 4 minutes to write out an action that we can take consistently, either every day or every week, to live out these values. See, I did this myself, and it looked something like this. I picked these 5 values that resonated most with me, and I also wrote down actions that I can take each day or each week to live them out. So one of my values is love. And because I value love, I'm texting one of my friends each day that I love them. And I've been doing this for about 3.5 months now. So I'm texting the same people that I love them every day, just about. But it's just one small way, or one small action that I can take to live out my values each day. So we will do this for each of the values that we just wrote down that we deem are important to us as individuals. An action that we can take either daily or weekly to live out our values. Let's pause the video here. And when we're ready to move on, I'll be here waiting. Great. Well, thanks so much for writing down those values and those actions that we can take each day or each week to live out our values. So we'll wrap this up using those handy dandy cell phones once more. Now we're going to set a reminder with our values in our phone so that every day we are reminded to take actions that align with our values. So let's set a reminder on our phone with our values so it can serve as a reminder each day to live those out in our tasks. Let's pause the video once more and wrap up this portion. Wonderful. Well, let's take those cell phones if we still have them out and let's kiss them goodbye because we won't need them anymore for our time together. So y'all, we figured out that our values are super important to us. They're an important part of our identity, and they're just those things that are really important to us. So because they're important to us, they got our actions. They led us through this fictional field trip, and they're gonna guide us through the rest of our life. Let's check off that first box that we came to at the beginning of our session together. Now we have to talk about this awesome idea of all of us having different values, and that being a really good thing. So I know that I said that we weren't talking about values in the sense of things that we can touch necessarily, But y'all, I can't help but think that I value food so much, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up my love for food in our time together. And because I love food so much, and I've been living with my teammates here in Indianapolis for the past few weeks, or months actually, I think it's been 4 months by the time you'll see this, we have to cook. You know, Chick-fil-A is great, but Chick-fil-A every day, not so great. So my female teammates and I, we sat down and we were plotting and scheming as to how we can make the very best Italian meal to knock the socks off of our other teammates who lived in the apartment next to us. So we thought critically about our budget and then our skills. What can we do well? What can we execute to ensure that we have a beautiful meal to present to our boys? So it came down to this. I am very detail oriented. And if we need a dish to look pretty, if we need someone to chop things up very precisely, I'm your girl. So I got to do bruschetta and I got to make a cute charcuterie board. I'm on TikTok, so I love seeing the like meats and cheeses and the fruits and how beautiful they can be put together. And I wanted to do that for our meal. And because we knew that we have these different skills and I'm so detail oriented, we thought that an Italian meal would be appropriate for our skill set, which we'll learn a little bit more about in a second, and the budget that we had at hand. Next, we had Anna, and Anna is our utility player. Wherever we put Anna in the kitchen, she's going to excel. So Anna was in charge of our main entree, being homemade chicken Alfredo. She found a recipe. She found ways to put her twist in it. She incorporated the two rest of us to ensure that it tasted well. And man, she killed it on our chicken Alfredo. Miriam, my final female teammate, she's like Betty Crocker. I mean, you give her some flour, you give her some sugar, she's gonna put it in the oven, and it's a great time. So, altogether, we made an incredible Italian meal, and Miriam made this incredible molten chocolate lava cake, best I've ever tasted. Anna had the homemade chicken Alfredo that was absolutely delicious, rivals Olive Garden. And then I had us with the appetizers, and we had some bruschetta and some meats and cheeses on a really beautifully arranged charcuterie board. And when I said we knocked the socks off of our boys, we knocked the socks off of our boys. So now, because I shared this really long-winded story about how much we love food and how we came together using our skills, using our talents, using what we value to make the best meal ever in our eyes, it's our turn as a group to do the same. So if we can, let's arrange ourselves into small groups of 3s, 4s, or 5s, whichever works best for our classroom. Let's pause the video now and arrange ourselves in groups. If we're having a hard time finding our groups, no worries, this activity can also be done individually. For the next 5 minutes or so, we are going to make the best meal ever. You have free range to make the best meal ever, but our job is to work together, have different facets in our meal, and make the best meal ever, the most complete meal, the tastiest meal that we can think of in the next 5 minutes. Everyone will contribute to our meal. Everyone will contribute to our conversation. And we will come back after those 5 minutes of creating the best meal ever. Whoop, whoop. So hopefully we are back now and we've got some really great meals. So let's take another 5 minutes to answer these 3 questions that we see on the screen. Let's take our time and think critically about these 3 questions. And when we come back together, believe it or not, we're almost done here, y'all. So let's pause our video, and in 5 minutes, we'll be back. Great. I know that we've got some great responses to those questions there. And y'all, when we did that and we did our meal, we probably, I would bet over 90% of us watching this workshop had a meal that had an appetizer or an entree that was full with different types of things and a dessert. We had all of these different things that came together to make the best meal ever. Just like my teammates and I decided that we needed an appetizer, an entree, a dessert, all full of different things to make our best meal ever. And the same is true when we go into our everyday life, right? We all bring something different to the table. We bring different values and different life experiences and different aspects of our identity to the table. And because of that, we're able to do really great work. Our differences are our strength. And when we think about that last question, in a time in real life in which we've seen this happen, there are a few different things that come to my mind. I think about the hospital setting, especially as we have battled the COVID-19 pandemic over the past year. Let's think about all of the awesome people with different talents and different values that absolutely keep our hospitals running. There are nurses, there are surgeons, there are custodial staff members, there's a cafeteria staff that keeps our residents of our hospitals and hospices fed. So many people come together, bring their talents, bring their values, and we're better because of it. I'm a huge sports junkie, so I also think of sports. It doesn't matter if it's basketball or football. There are so many different roles on a team sport that have to be executed in order for them to find success and win games. On a basketball court, there's a point guard and a shooting guard and a power forward and a small forward and a center. And they all work together using those different talents, skills, and values to win games. Same is true in football. There's an offense and a defense. And even amongst those two groups, there are different roles. There's a quarterback and there's a tight end and there's a running back and there's a wide receiver. There are defenders, there's tackles. There are all these different types of people who come together to create something beautiful, to make magic happen on our courts and in real life. And I know that some of us came up with those same examples in our last 5 minutes together. So let's insert ourselves into the picture. In a moment, I'm going to share my screen, shocker, and we will see a index card with some sentences and some blanks. I am blank. My values are blank. This matters because blank. We will take the time to fill in these blanks for ourselves. I did this, and it says, I am Artha. My values are equity, love, achievement, adventure, and compassion. And this matters because these values remind me to be someone's biggest advocate every day. So let's pause the video here and fill in the blanks using our own name, our own values, and why they matter. Wonderful, welcome back, and thank you so much for taking the time to think critically about who you are, your values, and why they matter. Because folks, they do matter, and they matter a lot. Who you are matters a lot, and how you show up in the world matters a lot. We are almost done with our time together, folks. And let me just say, time really flies when you're having fun, and we're pressing pause and we're pressing play, and we're making the most of this virtual situation that we all find ourselves in. So to wrap up, I want us to think about how we can show up in the real world, our true and authentic self. I speak from firsthand experience when I say that this is not always easy. Sometimes folks try to change who we are in order to fit a certain mold or what they deem is acceptable. But here's the truth. When we show up authentically, when we show up with those 5 things that we wrote down, that's how we are able to change the world for the better. That's how we live purposefully and passionately and navigate this world in a way that we can lay our head down at night and feel very proud of the work that we do. And when I ever lose sight of that, and I feel like I have to conform to someone's perception of me, I'm brought back to one of my favorite quotes of all time by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were all meant to shine as children do. And it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Whew. I don't know about you, but I have chills every time I hear that and every time I read that. When we show up, that is the magic. That is what scares us, being our best selves because we are so powerful. And when we show up authentically, so do other people, and our whole world is made better. So friends, thank you so much for an incredible time together and an incredible workshop. I hope this is not the last that we will see of each other and that we stay connected. So feel free to connect with me either via email or through social media. And if we find ourselves with the time, we can scan the QR code to the left of the screen and we can give an evaluation of how this virtual workshop went. Awesome. Well, thank you again for a great time and happy State Convention, Minnesota. Bye.